Welcome again to the Paradise Paradox. My name is Kurt Robinson.
Aaron Battle, also welcoming you to the paradise that we call the paradox.
The paradox in paradise. The scary and beautiful land of Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico.
It's all good. We're gonna be all right.
Yeah, are you sure? Are you sure you haven't seen anybody chopping each other up with chainsaws in the street? Beheading each other, nothing like that?
No, I just thought it was funny that I got a message telling me to kill my wife. Literally 10 minutes ago.
Right. That's an interesting form of shock advertising. Discover your infidelity.
Or
discover your wife's
synchronicity.
infidelity and kill your wife.
Well, maybe she's not really my wife. Maybe she's the devil.
That's not outside the realm of possibility.
Hey, I'm open to it.
All right. Run the intro.
Intro.
So I wanted to talk a bit about the topic of evolution, the Neo-Darwinian theory of evolution. I've been doing a little bit of research lately, and some interesting things came up about it. One thing that came up on YouTube, which kind of got me going down this path, is there's this creationist dude. He's going around a university and he's interviewing people like biology students and students of other sciences and I think even a couple of professors. And he's asking them this seemingly simple question, which actually has kind of a lot of questions behind it, I suppose. So what he asks is, what's the best example you can provide of macroevolution, or he calls it a change of kind, not just a change of species, like one fish changing to another, still within the same genus, but he calls it a change of kind. So I like to describe it because these aren't really scientific terms that he's using. I like to describe it as the change of one animal into another completely different animal. So different that any regular person or that most people would say, yes, that is a completely different animal. So something like the change from a trilobite into a lobster, or the change of some other kind of primate into a human being, something like that. And yeah, as it turns out, it's not an easy question to answer.
I like the whole topic of evolution because it just seems like every time you ask the question or you ask to investigate into a section of it, it's so limited because it's like we're looking for an answer and we're forcing ourselves to look in one particular spot.
Yeah, how do you mean?
Well, we somehow relate the idea of evolution to that one animal is going to evolve out of another animal.
Yes.
And it's because we don't know where the animals come from or why there's such a variety. But it's so easy to say, well, that didn't happen. And then it's easy to say, well, how else did it happen? It has to be evolution.
Well, yeah, I don't think it has to be evolution, but as I learned like through this investigation, it seems evolution is reasonably likely. At least some parts of evolution are very probable to be correct. But I don't know if the entire idea is correct or complete.
Well, it's more that we're not sure if it's complete.
Yeah.
I think certain aspects of natural selection, aspects of the concept of evolution have legs in some areas, but I think we're looking at it too small. Like there's too many unanswered sections of that we just don't know. Yeah. And from previous conversations, we scratch on it, but we haven't really dug into it too far. So hopefully this time we're going to push ourselves to explore a little bit more.
Yeah. So it's tricky because, when I asked the question, it seemed like some of my friends are proponents of this Neo-Darwinian theory, and a lot of them have studied it. Like I've got a friend who has a degree in botany, and some friends who have qualifications in other sciences, biology and stuff like this. And the thing is, at first it kind of seemed like my friends were avoiding the question when I asked it on Facebook. But the point eventually came out that the reason there isn't such data where you can trace a lineage from one form of animal into a completely different animal is because the fossil data is so limited. It's so difficult to find like fossil data from say 360 million years ago. It's not every day that you stumble across a fossil that's that old. But I did get some examples.
Why does it have to be that old? Like, shouldn't there be some evidence in real time if that's happening?
Because apparently, I think the reason is because most of the species as we know them today, or more or less as we know them today, formed a long time ago. Most of the species that we can look at today formed quite a long time ago. Not necessarily 360 million years ago, but still quite a long time ago, long enough for it to be difficult.
And they've concentrated.
To be found.
They've concentrated to become the animals they are today.
Yeah. But then there's some other things which I haven't looked into. And they call it geological rift. I didn't look up the term.
I'm pretty fresh to this topic as well, but I think we're looking at it from the wrong point of view. Just so everyone gets an idea of where we're looking at it from. Has your point of view changed on whether you believe in evolution or non-evolution? I mean, I know right now we're looking at it from a pure like scientific, open to whatever the evidence is going to show us perspective, but through your research, has your view changed at all?
Yeah, to some extent, yes. Because, of course, I mean, years ago when I was in high school, someone told me this is the theory of evolution, and I was like, that sounds pretty good. And I still think, for the most part, it's reasonable. More recently, a friend of mine, Jeremy, expressed his doubts about it, and it started me questioning, and then I saw this YouTube video. And of course, when you, it's a kind of scientific view that when, if you don't have any evidence, you're not going to assume anything to be true or false. So that
doesn't sound like science.
No, well, that's.
I mean, it's a good start.
Yeah. The point is, I didn't have any evidence that I could put my finger on and say this is clear evidence of evolution. I hadn't researched enough to know that. So that was kind of where I was starting from, and
Well, I've always found evolution to be interesting, plausible, from what I've been educated. But family and religious pressures have always led me to believe, God was the overseeing, almighty creator that put it all together. But then,
But that's fine. I don't think there's any reason these two views aren't compatible.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we found over lunch.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting.
Yeah. But I don't really believe in an interventionist God. Do you?
In a God as well, I think my idea of God and the idea of intervention in this kind of it doesn't match with like the ideas of natural selection, which I think is obviously a product of two adults or two animals to create a offspring, which I mean it's you got to be pretty closed-minded not to start putting the application of natural selection in that. But at the same time, I don't see how that over a long period of time obviously there's going to be some changes.
Yes.
I don't see how you can turn around and say, well, God created everything and God created all the animals as they are, which I'm not ruling out.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that doesn't. Well, that just means that God created the option for her animals to grow and evolve themselves. But then I'm using the word evolve. So the original product's going to evolve into something based on who decides to mate with who.
Yeah, because you can see there's cases of microevolution where birds will come in and eat the beetles that stand out the most or something like that, and I believe that sort of thing has been observed.
I mean, we can talk about races of dogs and say how you mix different races of dogs and you make a new race.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's not evolution.
It is. Proponents of the theory would say,
microevolution,
microevolution, or speciation. Yes, slight changes, but within the species, becoming a different kind of animal within. I don't have the words to say it. Becoming a different form of the same animal.
Yeah, it's not really. Yeah. I mean, I know. Part of me wants an answer. Like I like to know stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not really something that I need to research a lot about. Like I enjoy debating it and talking about it.
Yeah.
But evolution, I find there's people that sit on the fence and they're like, it doesn't matter either way, it doesn't matter. But other people need to know or need to press their point of view, and I like talking to those people because there's no answers yet.
Yeah.
So it's so easy just to push people's buttons with this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially if they're religious.
Yeah. So there was some. So some of the examples that my friend Pikey provided in terms of fossil record. One of them was Lucy, which is apparently or allegedly an Australopithecus fossil sample, a homonym, like not exactly human. Not exactly human.
She was deemed the missing link at this stage?
Yeah, probably. At some stage, she was probably called the missing link, but I'm not sure if that's valid or not. The thing is that you look at the skeleton, and it's not a skeleton. It's a bunch of bones. There are about 20, maybe 30 bones at most. And the human body has about 250, I believe. So you would have to make a lot of assumptions. From what I can tell, you would have to make a lot of assumptions about where her bones were placed to say if she walked like a human or like a chimpanzee.
Well, if that was juice concentration, then it's got less than 15% of the original, which means you have to call it if it was in a fruit drink, not a fruit juice. So I don't know how that applies to the missing link.
So a human drink, a reconstituted human. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. You can't call that something.
Yeah, it would be difficult to say if it's more human or more chimpanzee or something in between. It has a V-shaped jaw, which of course humans don't have. Which a lot of primates do. So I don't know if it's rightfully called a missing link or not.
But was it the age that it was found, or more like was there like a significant skull structure that was found? Like how do they even know what it was?
Well, I don't have that answer because I'm not trained in that field. But there's a lot of techniques they used. Like, for example, they'll look at the structure of the bones and they'll try to say, well, this bone is either more like a chimpanzee or it's worn in certain spots, and they'll say, therefore, she walked bipedally. Those sorts of clues that they use to try to fill in the gaps. Yeah. So that, as my limited research of that, I'd say that wasn't extremely convincing in terms of evolution. But again, it's just one piece.
Yeah, it hasn't closed the case at all.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't close the case, but it does, it asks some questions. Then there are things which are more convincing, which indicate that humans and other primates have common ancestors. So things like the fusion of chromosomes. So most primates have 48 chromosomes, whereas humans have 46. And apparently you can look at the second chromosome and it basically looks like the two chimpanzee chromosomes put together. And so it seems to indicate that chimpanzees or humans and other primates have common ancestors. And then there are things like this damage in the human genome, where a virus has somehow attached itself or damaged part of the genes of humans, and they occur at certain places in the genome. And it so happens that they occur in the exact same places in humans and other primates, which very strongly indicates that they have common ancestors, or that the genomes have the same source.
It seems that way, but what are the genes exactly? Are these building blocks, or are these information packets, or like what do they say?
Nobody knows. Well,
why are we even talking about this stuff?
We have some information. Like, I think the genes are basically information about how to build proteins.
Cool. That's kind of the idea I had, but I mean, I've got no real depth to say that why couldn't more than one animal have the same damage in the same section?
Because the genome is so large, it's like got millions of pieces of information, and the damaged parts are like 14 of these, or I don't know, around 10, 20 parts that are damaged in exactly the same places.
And
so
saying a virus did this.
Yeah, a virus somehow damaged the genome, I believe. So so the point is, it's so unlikely that these things would be damaged in exactly the same place. It's less likely than winning roulette on red 32.
Okay,
sure.
all right. So with that information, where it's pretty straightforward to say and accept that we're from the same batch.
Yeah, it's reasonable. I mean, it's certainly congruent with the idea that that humans and other primates are from a common ancestor. Yeah. Okay. It's highly likely that this is shared information, that this information is from the same source.
And no doubt DNA shows a similar sort of trend, that we're sharing a lot of the same DNA as well.
Well, let's see. So DNA contains the genes. Is that how it works? I know.
Well, I know they're all building blocks. So blocks, mortar, structure.
Yeah, genes and DNA. I think DNA contains the genes.
Okay.
Yeah, but we need to check that.
Okay. Well, let's just. I mean, I'm not a biologist to go into the details of what they all do.
Yeah.
But just let's stick with that we share a significant amount of the same genes, DNA. I mean, I often hear that we're very close to pigs, which just how does that work?
Right. So that's the other thing.
I just accept it. Hey, cool. Okay, we're all Earth species, so there's going to be a certain amount of Earth knowledge in us all.
Well, I've read things like humans share 90% of the genetic material with bananas as well. So most of it is like,
I've met a few bananas.
This is an Earthling. Yeah, I've had an intimate relationship with it.
That's probably not that uncommon, really. I wouldn't beat yourself up about it.
Dated worse women. Anyway, so in terms of the pigs, this is another theory, because humans have certain traits that are not shared with other primates. So, for example, noses which contain cartilage, the wide upper lip, the absence of fur for most of the body, certain parts of the body which have harder skin than others, even the structure of the kidney is not similar to primates, but is similar to another kind of animal, to pigs. So,
I've seen the articles on about how pigs how they can grow organs from pigs or transfer a lung from, I don't know, maybe not a lung.
yeah,
Kidneys.
okay.
Kidneys are like
I've,
pigs.
I've read a few cases where, say, someone is in the shop and they get the end of their finger chopped off, and they use this powder which is ground up from some organ of a pig, and the powder is or the material is close enough to stem cells that it will actually regenerate the finger. And I believe some cases it will even regenerate the bone. So they apply it to the wound every day, and they have a sort of a cask, like a structure for the finger to grow into. And yeah,
I'm just smiling as I'm thinking about the well, I mean, I don't know if it's true, but the pig fat content in Macca's self-serve cones.
I don't think it's true anymore. But
No, but was it true at one point?
I believe so.
Can you imagine getting that pig powder material and putting your 3D printer and just printing appendages and attaching them on?
Yeah, the problem is the nerves, though. You've got to
true.
make the nerves as well. And then you would have to train your brain to use them, which would be a whole other thing.
I don't know. I think we're there in pretty training the brain. It's pretty training the cells to adapt and not reject. You have too many white blood cells moving into this pig limb, trying to telling the body to attack it. There's not you.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's actually that's not such a problem. Let's see, because what they do nowadays, when they print organs and stuff like that, or as they're starting to do, I believe they get a sample of your flesh and they use that to reconstruct the.
Yeah, they could rebuild it, because I mean these cells these cells from the pig are just like they're kind of like empty information wise, aren't they? It's like they're like I mean maybe it's too much sci-fi movies of unanimated limbs and they just inject your blood and turn it on and it's got your knowledge and it's all good.
I don't know.
I don't want to get silly or crazy, but okay. So we share DNA with pretty much everything on the planet. We're very close to, very close physically to an ape.
Yep.
And we share a lot of organ information with a pig. This is what I'm getting. I mean,
yes. Skin especially with pigs, but there's a whole list, and I'll put a link to this article in the description here, because it's absolutely fascinating. So the theory is that a chimpanzee bred with a pig, and then it was what they call a back cross hybrid, meaning that the offspring then made it again through several generations with chimpanzees, and perhaps that was what created a human. Monkey
business.
Yeah.
Is that real?
Getting funky with the monkey. It's a hypothesis. There's.
Have they tried it again?
That's
freaky.
An interesting thing on this site. The guy has compiled a few what apparently are hybrids, perhaps between humans and pigs, or perhaps between chimpanzees or other types of primates and pigs. And you can look at them, and they almost seem to have human features.
Did they live?
Some of them. I mean, there are some cases where someone came in and just killed them because they were like, this thing is unholy, it's
wrong.
An offense to God or something like that, and they didn't want to see it, so they destroyed it. And that happens in a few cases.
Yes, I mean, this really happened.
Yeah, you can see the footage.
There's footage?
Yeah.
This is insane.
I mean, you can't, yeah.
I just didn't do the homework on this. So,
yeah. But I'll show you the footage later.
Yeah, cool, okay.
I'll put it in the link. Yeah, so yeah, and there was another case where a pig was born with a trunk. So it seems to be a sort of pig elephant hybrid or some weird throwback to I don't even know what.
But okay, if these animals, I mean, okay, I get the idea that a lot of them are put down due to pre-existing ideas on what limits we're supposed to have with messing with life.
Yeah.
But are they able to reproduce?
So it's kind of a common misconception that whenever a hybrid is created, it's completely sterile, but that's not entirely true, at least according to the article I was reading, because you have things. Of course, you have things like a mule, which is the offspring of a horse and a donkey, an ass, and that is for all intents and purposes completely sterile. But that's only one case. In a lot of cases, it won't be completely sterile. It will just be more sterile than its parents. So it won't be able to breed as easily, but it's still able to breed. And this kind of links to humans because humans, in comparison to other animals, are relatively infertile. And so
I wasn't aware of that. She seems to have too many kids around. It doesn't compute.
yeah, that's true. That's true. But yeah, they are apparently humans compared to other species. It's a lot harder for humans to have babies than it is for other species. And
But okay, no, I accept that. I mean, but we have other abilities. Like we have a higher level of being able to protect. I mean, obviously we've dominated this planet, but it's probably got nothing to do with our ability to reproduce. More so, our ability to recreate habitats and safe environments for ourselves.
yeah, so if you're safe enough, even if you're not quite as fertile, you still have plenty of time to breed.
To work it out.
Yeah, yeah, work it out. Yeah. So then the other thing about one thing in favor of the modern theory of evolution is phylogenetic trees. So they get all this information across different disciplines. So say they compare anatomical information between bats and whales and humans and other primates, and they compile it all together. And then in another discipline, like as a geneticist, someone is compiling all this information about the same animals, and they try to piece together a tree, comparing all of these different animals. And as it happens, the information across all of the different disciplines tends to line up. So that gives another strong indication that all of these animals are coming off this big family tree over many millions of years, and they all have more or less common ancestors at some point along the track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just the concept of evolution. I'm still thinking about this half trunk pig ape, and these. I've got to see these things. Okay, so I mean, they're probably less likely to reproduce, which is why which is why we probably don't see half of these half animals, and why most animals have channeled into the animal that we know today.
Yes. Yes.
But you're saying that over all these years, there should be at least some evidence of these animals at all stages in between, or how?
You mean like transitional forms where like in between a trilobite and a lobster, the fossils in between representing different stages. Is that what you mean, or what do you mean?
Well, okay. The concept of, I mean, I like the idea of best of. My head's all jumbled up now.
Yeah.
The idea that over time, animals, let's say they all started at the same, that over time, natural selection created an animal more fine, like made a dog and a horse,
Okay.
based on
more distinct.
Yeah, more distinct, copies of themselves based on, you know, whatever was the most aesthetic, I guess. It's got to do with natural beauty. And then them being able to select, or the animal selecting its own mates, and how that just has happened over time. Is that kind of the debate that they're making?
Yeah. So that's part of it. So so of course in evolution, the first thing is you have random mutation. So radiation coming in and altering the genetic material, turning one form of animal into a slightly different form of animal. And then you have natural selection, so some form of predator in the environment, which is removing certain animals from the environment, like for example, if you spray antibiotics on bacteria, some of them are resistant enough to survive, and so those because of the genetic variety, they have different resistances to environment. So some of those go on to survive, and then they produce another generation, and so on. And then you have what you're talking about, this sexual selection, which seems to be very important when it comes to humans, because apparently at some stage in the human development, intelligence became a very important factor in sexual selection. So, for example, I kind of imagine this scenario where someone is intelligent enough to generate fire, and so a lot of the women, or at least a few of the women, decide that this man is going to be their mate, because the fire is going to serve to heat them, keep them warm, keep their babies warm. It's also going to protect them from predators. And so this is like a Stone Age peacocking kind of thing.
Yeah, well, cars didn't exist, so it wasn't about who had the redder hot rod or anything. It was who could heat up their cave more.
Yeah, and who could fashion the best spear, because that's going to keep them safe as well. So apparently that's how intelligence became so important to humans. And I guess that was a key point that I missed when I first started investigating, because I thought, mutation and natural selection seemed so unlikely to produce something as complex as humans. But with sexual selection as well, it seems to tie it in a lot better.
But it doesn't exactly explain why there's no links between the animals.
Well, maybe because, like I said, the fossil record. If you're getting these fossil records from so long ago, yeah, you find links between them, more or less, but very far apart. So perhaps I'm not sure, but it seems like one of the reasons that transitional forms are so rare is just because fossils are so rare.
In general,
yes.
Like it's not that there's it's not that there isn't any evidence. It's just that there's next to no fossils over time.
It's difficult to find evidence from that period. Yeah, apparently that's the explanation.
Okay.
So, yeah. Shall we take a break?
Break.
I had a few questions for my friends when they were trying to support the theory of evolution, and I at the beginning I said I think it's highly unlikely that something like just random mutation is going to result in something as complex as Leonardo da Vinci. So I came up with a few analogies. I said to them, like, if you tossed a coin, it's normally going to end up as a head or a tail. And that's happened every single time I've thrown a coin. So my question was, how many times do you think you would have to throw a coin before it to land exactly on the edge? And I actually don't think it would ever happen. At least not while you're landing it on a flat surface, because whenever the coin comes through the air, it's spinning, and the spin, as soon as it hits the ground, is going to cause it to slip off the edge, even if it somehow lands on the edge, and then it'll end up as heads or tails. So I was saying, like, I think some things are so unlikely that they're just not going to occur. Or the other argument that a lot of creationists make is this idea about the Boeing 747.
I like this one. The Boeing 747.
Yep.
We're talking about a tornado finding itself into a junkyard and reorganizing all the pieces to leave in its place a Boeing 747 constructed from junk.
Yeah, just a hunk of metal, and it comes out and it's a 747. How likely is that scenario? I don't think it's extremely likely.
It doesn't seem extremely likely from our understanding of junkyards and the activity produced by tornadoes. But it's more a question on chance. Is it possible in the first place? I think we jump to assume that it's not possible. But I mean, we can construct a hypothesis on how it is possible.
Yeah.
The same as the coin. Is it possible to even land on its side?
Yeah. I don't know. It seems so. It seems like it would never happen.
Or not under the conditions of force and gravity and maybe the table that we're dealing with, but if you're able to, it's definitely possible.
You think it's possible?
I think, yeah, of course. Everything's possible. Okay, in the game of chance... Is
everything possible? Like, is it possible that you right now can float off this bed? I don't think that is possible.
Oh, well, not right now.
Yeah, not right now.
But if I try an infinite amount of times, maybe there is a circumstance where I can float off this bed here. So I don't know. I think these questions of evolution are so... We're talking about time being so long, and it's always but over so many billion years.
Yep.
It must be possible, like as if everything's possible, reaching infinity. But is it possible?
I'm not sure if everything is possible reaching infinity.
Well, that's more like the question. Like you mentioned that apes monkeys have 38 chromosomes, 38.
48, I believe.
48, and humans have 46.
Yeah.
There was a fusion between... Is that possible?
Oh, well, I mentioned the hybridization. With hybridization, it's absolutely possible.
But are they fused, or what is that exactly? Or is it just less as a species?
Both. Both. Because you can see... Apparently, you can look at these chromosomes, and you can tell that they were somehow related to the chimpanzee chromosomes. So the two chromosomes have become, two chromosomes have become one, or three have become one. It's something like that.
So now evolution's become a game of looking for the evidence, because looking at natural selection and sexual selection and what other selection have you over a time,
with hybridization,
possibly with hybridization over a long enough timeline, then it's possible, but there's just no evidence for it.
There is evidence that at least that seems to suggest this, but you can't go back and trace a single lineage of like a trilobite to a lobster or something like that. You can't do that because there isn't evidence. There is more recent evidence to infer that, but there isn't direct fossil evidence to demonstrate to support it, or at least not a whole lot.
Because I think on a macro level, looking for evolution is just it doesn't really make sense. As in, we're looking for something that doesn't exist. You said it yourself. It seems incomplete.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
we can say
So
we can say evolution on a micro level. Well, then there's clear evidence because you can see it within lifetimes, within generations of an animal.
yes.
But macro, so what? I don't think fossils are going to answer your question.
Yeah, well, apparently not, because there's not many of them. But let me propose these other two analogies because I think they're interesting thought experiments. So one of them was my robot analogy. Like, say you have a bunch of robots, and they all have this code in them. They have this machine code or programming code in Logo or something inside them. They have sufficient mechanical ability, like to manipulate things. They have some kind of gripping limbs which they can move and rotate, so they can manipulate their environment. But they don't necessarily have the greatest software to use them in a great way. And so what they're trying to do is they're trying to get through a maze, or they're trying to escape a predator. And what happens every day or every week or so, their machine code or their programming is randomly changed. So it might be 1 byte at a time, which is randomly changed in the code. And the question is, how long will it be, or what is the best scenario that you could come up with for these robots to eventually do things like build a bridge over the maze, construct a hot air balloon so they can fly over the maze, build a shield or a house to protect themselves from the predator. How long will it be? How many generations? And what is the ideal conditions that you can provide for these robots?
Without them dying.
Yes, because they have to escape the predator. They're not necessarily destroyed, but they're like removed from the game if the predator attacks them. Yeah.
And what were the results of that? That seems fascinating.
Well, it's I don't know what the results are because it's a thought experiment. My friends never answered this analogy, so I don't know if somebody can come up with the better.
So it's like it's a model.
Scenario.
Yeah, it's a model to test.
To test evolution.
Test
to try
evolution.
to come up with an artificial form of evolution involving a natural selection and random mutation. Yeah. And I mean, possibly there's a way to design the experiment so sexual selection is included as well.
When I first heard about this, I thought of insects straight away.
Yeah.
Because insects are animals that don't have a brain and run completely on pre-programming, on survival programming. I'm not sure how much, but everything that's done is a reaction to the environment.
Right.
So that to me seemed like the similar sort of thing, like a similar watching insects react to predators would be a similar kind of game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that led us to that other game where they'll program in programs to see, based on a certain amount of rules, to see how they react.
So instead of a physical simulation with robots, I propose this idea of Conway's game of life, which is it's a game with simple rules played on a 2-dimensional grid. Or it's not exactly played. It's not a game like poker or chess, but it's a simulation of a very simple universe. So my idea would be like you get a huge board for Conway's game of life, and the rules are simple. Like if there are 2 to 4 surrounding blocks, then a block will come to life. If a block can be either alive or dead, a 1 or a 0, and if a certain block has two alive spaces around it, then it will be sustained. It will stay the same as it is. If it has 3 or 5 blocks around it, it will become alive. If it has 5 to 8, then it becomes dead from overcrowding. Those aren't the exact rules, but it's something simple like this.
Well, there are various examples of different rules.
Yeah,
but
you could come up with
you need to
different
see
rules.
it. You need to see it, and then you need to see the pattern live and how it moves within itself.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, most of these examples resemble something you'd consider, well, that has life.
Yeah, something like life. So you can with these simple rules, you can make simple machines within the game of life, within Conway, like a glider or let's see, a flyer which just moves to the southeast of the simulation, or a glider which just moves east. But then you can make more complex things. A glider gun, which shoots out gliders moving to the east, and then you can make even more complex things, like a replicator, like a factory that's like 100 by 100 squares, and it actually creates other things that are similar to itself.
What was the significance of that game?
Well, my question again is, it's similar to the robot thought experiment that I proposed. The question is, how what are the best what's the best scenario or the best rules that you can introduce to this game to cause evolution, until you can make something that's intelligent, like something that's capable of making a decision or imagining something and then setting out to achieve it as a human does. And is it possible to do that? Like, if you introduce a predator into the program, so something that kind of breaks the rules, it can just go around eating things.
You want a pretty advanced algorithm already, like a pretty well populating, expanding, growing, evolving set of rules before you put in a predator.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you'd have no baseline.
yeah.
Like you'd be dead.
Well, that's the hard thing about it, because I try to imagine, like, you could get this sort of program, and you can run it, with the modern computer. It can do like hundreds or maybe thousands of cycles in a second, so it can run through this simulation really quick. And the question is, how many times, like, if you keep producing random boards, how long is it going to take before it produces something which we might call intelligent?
Depends on the observer and what they deem intelligent. Oh, it really it's a game of recognition, because you could set up a computer to continually produce random boards, random rules, and activate the algorithms to run with the rules, and it would just go forever and probably wouldn't even see anything. It really depends on whether the computer itself could recognize itself as something intelligent or significantly sustainable.
Yeah, significantly sustainable. I think that would be a good measure, because if a board stays the same, or just flips between two states for like 100 turns, you probably say, okay, well, that one's good. There's no more action on that board, and then you start again.
Yeah, or you build from it, add down the rule, and see how it behaves.
Yeah, possible. Yeah.
And then it grows.
Yeah. But then the other thing, like you mentioned, the ants or the bees, and an idea which kind of stems from that is like a hive mind. So the ants and bees have this, like, they have a collective consciousness, or maybe a collective unconscious, and so the ants and bees can be directed. They kind of act as neurons. The bee can find food, bring the information back to the hive, perform a dance, and that's like transmitting the information by synapse to other neurons. But then, well, in this case, they're not exactly neurons, because they're also like limbs of an organism, and they go out and perform the duties as well as being part of the thought process.
Yeah, that's where I think people should be looking for evolution, in that kind of mind, because we're too busy worrying about individualism and not understanding the collective thought process that all animals have. And I mean, this ties back into to Rupert's Rupert Sheldrake's work with morphic fields.
Yes.
And how, irrespective of what type of animal it is, there is a field connecting all those animals, or some kind of communication network at some level, which is yet to be 100% defined. Yeah. But the implications on the morphic fields and evolution, where do we take that from there? Because
well,
I mean,
the other question I have is like, if there's a kind of collective unconscious among these animals, could this sort of hive mind somehow direct the formation of the species? So could it alter the genetic material or provide some kind of epigenetic factor which changed the way the species develop? So recently, around the central coast of New South Wales, apparently some species of lizard have been changing from egg laying, as they normally do, to live births.
Whoa, that's a big jump.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keep going.
So my question is, we were discussing this, me and my brother and his girlfriend, and she said, well, that's evidence of evolution right there. And I said, well, not necessarily, because what if, I mean, you're talking about it in terms of natural selection. So like a predator removing all of the egg-laying lizards. And I said, well, maybe it's not that. Maybe it's that this species can actually respond proactively. If it detects that there are predators, it changes its habits to protect its young, which isn't evolution in terms of neo-Darwinianism, like natural selection, subtractive factors, but it's a different kind. It's an additive factor. It's a proactive change, and that's what I suspect might be happening.
That's doozy.
But I mean, I don't have any evidence.
Is there evidence that that has done it before, or that it can choose? Maybe it can do both.
Yeah,
and depending on season and what it's picking up, it can choose to either lay eggs or give live birth.
Yeah, well, apparently there are precedents for that. Among amphibians and lizards, they can change from live births to eggs. Or at the very least, they can retain their eggs inside. It's not exactly the same as live births.
Well, okay, sticking with the hive mind and the concept of morphic resonance, the idea of the tornado finding its way into the junkyard and producing a Boeing 747.
Yeah.
If we started introducing things like the tornado being the creature that's creating something, or being the creator in this case, and being, I guess, evolution being a very long time span, and we're able to play that out, that scenario of tornadoes finding their way in. I mean, we briefly spoke about this, but how exactly, we really don't know enough, do we? But let's play out this scenario where it's not a once-off case, because I think when we consider a tornado going into a junkyard and producing something of complication, it's a no chance.
Right, but but I think, let's see, I think part of the reason the 747 analogy fails is because evolution isn't talking about creating something complete all at once, like a 747 or like an eye or something. It's talking about piece by piece, small changes, small chunking, over millions and millions of years. Like every few million years, a slight thing gets added. Maybe somehow an eye gets developed or something, or
I think it comes down to a learning capacity.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is why the hive mind is such an interesting concept.
Yeah.
I think there has to be some way of storing information,
Okay. Okay.
like through activity of evolution, being able to store of previous failed attempts of evolution, and somehow build in, because you said it's all little steps
Yeah.
over a massive amount of time.
Yep. So, yeah, well, some people, I mean, parts of the DNA used to be referred to, I think, mainly by the media, not by scientists themselves, as junk DNA. But now people are saying, well, it's not junk. We didn't realize what it did before. Now we're starting to get an idea, and so they say that it's like the vestiges of previous beings, previous incarnations or iterations of life, and this information is still stored in the genome. That's the idea. I'm not sure if that's true or not.
No, well, nobody does. That's kind of the fun of this whole topic.
Yeah.
It has to have something. I mean, the junk DNA isn't just junk DNA. I mean, DNA seems to be so precise, so much information. How can anyone say, just because it's not visible or not visibly active,
Yeah.
doesn't mean that it's like these on or off on the board. It's like infinite possibility. The chance of it becoming, the chance of it being on or off, or all combinations of.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I'm kind of stuck. I feel like we're looking at models that just aren't complete. Like we're looking for. You mentioned that one of your responses you had in the discussion was that you're asking the wrong questions.
yeah. Because I was asking about the fossil record, and the fossil record has limited information about trying to trace a lineage. Yeah.
You see, when it comes to evolution, I'm more led down the path to investigate into the level of consciousness and how that has got more of a play.
Yeah.
And right now, I'm even troubled of how I'm going to try and explain that. But it's like, have you heard of the concept that humans have 12 strands of DNA?
I don't know what you mean.
Well, it's documented that humans have 12 strands of DNA, but only 2 of them are active.
Okay.
So I'm not sure of the. Well, I don't know. Let's go. Most people that talk about the 12 strands of DNA are talking about the 12 different. I mean, they mention alien races and and other intervention into the human DNA.
Okay.
And recently I come across a podcast that talks about the DNA being we all have it from all these different races of possible, like I'm going to say gods for a much less of a better term. And our actual appearance is our own expression of whatever DNA we have, and that literally we can change form if we wanted to.
So you don't mean through generations, like if I consciously change the form of my sperm and then my child changes. You mean change myself?
I mean shape shifting.
Okay. All right.
Like chameleon.
Where is this from? David Wilcock?
No. This is maybe.
Okay.
Maybe no. This is something completely new. I haven't come across it. This is from I believe it's called Astral Quest.
Okay.
Podcast.
Okay.
It was referred to me by a friend, and it's interesting because it completely undermines the whole evolutionary topic, which is probably why I'm semi-quiet in this area, because it's just so hard to argue the evolution topic when we're looking for evidence when there isn't any. So then we have to look at micro evidence or relative, like anything that's within the generations, and you can we can see direct results of selection types. And then looking over the long term, you can see how that's possible.
Yeah.
But when you start considering different levels of consciousness and how that affects the way that we express ourselves as a human species,
Yeah.
maybe the animals have other power as well, or other knowledge of their own expression.
Knowledge of their own. Let's see. What do you mean? Expression of what? You mean like artistic expression?
No, I mean expression of how
Communication.
they're represented in this reality.
Right. An expression of their genetic material or the spiritual
Yes.
material. Or
Yeah.
something like that.
No. Like the spiritual level of consciousness or whatever it is they are. Well, let's stick with people because I really don't know how dogs think or horses or any animal. But if we look at a human being and how we have I'd say a mediumly high sense of awareness, most of us. There are a lot of animals that don't have sense of awareness. For example, like if a dog looks in a mirror, like it's crazy.
Yep.
I mean, they say that they can't exactly spin the picture around to see the exactly same. I don't know. There's many YouTube videos and dogs looking at themselves in the mirror and going nuts.
Yep.
And then compared to something like a whale or a dolphin,
Yep.
it's like what's their level of consciousness have to do with their physical expression of their type of animal and how that can play in evolution. Have you come across any of that? I don't think it's very well documented.
Are you saying like, let's see, like the shape of their brain or something like that? Like the shape of the brain is like an expression of their spirit, or the other way around, or
I don't want to get too crazy because then it takes away from this.
Yeah.
But if
you've already crossed the line.
No,
let's
okay, no, it's because you mentioned that you asked me whether consciousness came first, before the animal, or did the animal come first?
Yeah.
It's like, are we a human being and then we became conscious of ourselves, or was our consciousness already at that level when we were human? Because it's very hard to ask a human person, were you consciousness before you were human or after? And then it's like you'd have to look at like ancient artworks and see whether they had a different, and try and interpret whether they had a different level of awareness of what we did, of what we do.
I'm just picturing this this whacked out scenario where like where humans maybe say they start to evolve, and together they have this group intelligence or this group consciousness, and this group consciousness kind of has a subtle influence over the decisions that the groups make until they're getting more and more intelligent, and then the group consciousness is sort of able to incarnate into one of these bodies. So what was previously a consciousness of a group becomes a consciousness of a single being.
Yeah. I don't think it has to happen. I think on those lines, but using the concept of a morphic field.
Yeah.
Then maybe that could happen at any time to anyone in their life, at any point. Like it doesn't have to be. They don't have to incarnate complete. They could just turn that on. Like there's so much DNA that just doesn't have a use apparently.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean that's kind of where I'm going with the evolution concept, and where you take that. It really depends on your limitation on belief in incarnation, reincarnation, and the way life evolves. If life is a physical evolution or if it's a mental evolution.
Are you talking about the lifespan of one being, or you're talking about the lifespan of a whole species?
Of the morphic field itself, the whole species.
Okay.
Okay, for example, I mean, this is okay. The only example that I could think of that I think most people could relate to would be like Neo in the Matrix.
Yeah.
Like his level of evolution, going from a normal dude being at work to all of a sudden realizing he's got more power than what he realized.
Okay.
And it's because he was always that person, the same as I've always been me.
Okay, but he wasn't able to switch it on
No.
until he goes on his spiritual
Well,
journey.
he was never aware he could switch it on.
Exactly.
It was nothing there. Like it wasn't something we ever thought about.
Yeah.
But let's say that we human beings have a hive mind, and that's kind of, let's say that's a field of all humans put together. Then as soon as we consciously evolve above being just one, and we connect with that field or with that hive mind, then we are the hive mind. So we are us, but with all the information of everything that humans have ever done and known and will know at the same time. Like that. So we be
tapping into the group knowledge.
We become the queen bee or the god mode. You know what I mean? And I think at that point you physically change.
Yeah.
Like the same as what a bee germ, worker bee, and a queen bee are exactly the same DNA, the same germ, but totally different beast.
Yes.
So that's kind of why I feel like when you talk about looking for a physical evolution, we're going to see jumps, and it's manifested through mind consciousness.
Right, because the potential is already there. Like there's this genetic material or information in the morphic field, which is it's already there from millions of years of evolution or millions of years.
It's above time.
Data. Yeah.
Like it exists in a different. It's irrelevant to time. Right. So, you could have a pig or a human being could have exactly the same information as in the same building blocks of life, but it's what you connect to. It's what your consciousness frequency connects to evolve yourself, evolve your material physically. Man, that's crazy. who believes this stuff?
I think I know someone who does. Okay, well, let's just mention.
I like to play with it.
That ties into the stone monkey theory. So we'll the stone ape theory. We'll mention that
that's
briefly.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is Terence McKenna's hypothesis that when there were apes in Africa, or perhaps Neanderthals in Africa, and they used to occupy trees, but then for some reason the trees died, bushfire or something like that. They needed to alter their habits, so they became non-arboreal. They started to roam the plains instead. And so looking for food, a common thing to find is cow patties. So they go down, turn over the cow patties, and
voila!
What did they find? Those, they used to call it, there used to be a few forms of them in Australia that my friends would find. Blue meanies and golden tops.
They have names?
Because they look different, but apparently all of them psychedelic. Magic mushrooms, psilocybin mushrooms. And so Terence McKenna proposed this idea that perhaps these apes or chimpanzees or Neanderthals, they consumed the mushrooms, and that was what led them to have epiphanies, which perhaps led them to change their brain mass, to increase their brain mass, start eating different foods or something like that, which affected them and brought about a very rapid evolution.
Yeah, it would have brought the monkeys. They wouldn't have a choice. They'd be consuming these magic mushrooms and having insane visions or just dreamtime knowledge that you would hope that they'd pass on, or it'd be information that they weren't aware of before. Yeah. That would directly change the physical pathways of their brain.
Yeah,
I mean,
would. Yeah.
So I mean, there's no doubt that kind of activity would lead to evolution, but mental or physical. I think the psilocybin in the brain has shown to prove they've proven it changes physical pathways in your brain.
Yeah.
So maybe the consciousness upgrade would be a byproduct of the physical upgrade of the brain. But then
Just a kind of interplay, yeah.
But there's no evidence of like a half monkey, like there's all different types of monkeys.
Yeah, monkeys, apes, primates.
This would have happened a long time ago.
Yeah, millions. Let's see. I don't know. 200 million years ago, something like that. 100, maybe 100 million. Yeah. So his other idea that ties into that is like he says fungi can survive. Fungus spores can survive in like the most adverse climates. So perhaps they can even survive on an asteroid hurtling through space. So what if these fungi are actually space travelers, but they don't occupy normal space like we do. They've actually transferred their consciousness to another dimension or another plane of being. But they still have this physical manifestation in the form of the fungus, and the fungus doesn't require to eat living matter like a lot of animals do. It can actually eat shit and survive on that.
So we're transporting the instructions to create a new version of whatever level of consciousness that alien was.
Yeah. So this alien reaches out and tries to communicate with humans, or with whatever it finds in the universe.
Well, humans wouldn't have been there.
Medium.
Maybe they were trying to save themselves, and they were sending themselves out.
Sort of time capsule.
Time capsule. Hit Earth, exploded. We're all aliens. Same level of consciousness, but we had to evolve the animal to house the consciousness, and we're back.
Yeah. So that's some of those ideas were more wild than others, but that was a fun discussion.
Dolphins have pretty got that all down pat.
Holy shit! All right. Yeah.
I mean, they're probably watching us going, these idiots are still thinking they're people.
As opposed to aliens. So thanks for all the fish.
Yes. Well, I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Most of us aliens are still going to work on Monday. Or still worrying about losing weight, or not turn up to the gym, or whatever else have you that they think they need to do.
Yeah.
Which is all good.
Stuff.
But just the morphic field idea of humans having a hive mind.
Okay.
Does that trip you out?
A little bit, because I mean, I can't say I've ever experienced it directly. Like we can get into stuff another time, I guess, about like shared dream experiences, like experiments where people go in their dreams and they try to meet a certain person, exchange passwords, and then there are things like it's an interesting experiment. Then things like meditation, like people will do a group meditation in a city and see if it affects the level of violence, because they're sending out these cool, calming, like
that's been proven
waves.
Apparently.
Well, we'll have to have a look at the evidence.
Yes, but just in regard to evolution evolving the mind, I know it all ties into this, but Christ consciousness.
Yeah.
Evolving the awareness to the level of the field itself, where you're above, where you're outside yourself, outside the race, the species, time. Is that what it is? Having all knowledge, being able to manipulate the reality?
I don't know.
Stay tuned. I'm going to investigate this.
Yeah.
You must know.
Show us your personal experience. All right, cool.
It'd be cool. It'd be so cool. Okay.
All right.
Whew. It's been a big day.
That was crazy. All right. My name's Kurt Robinson.
Aaron Battle,
Look us up on Twitter @TroubleBubble.
Battle AZ.
Yep. Press like, press comment, press subscribe. Tell us your story. Tell us interesting stuff about evolution and
Or just evolve, whatever you want.
yeah. Make like a Pokemon and evolve. All right. Peace.
Make like a Pokemon. That's brilliant.